Hello everyone, and welcome to my studio. My name is whimseryd, and today I will be doing something a little different. First of all, I've started using my computer to do art because I'm a college student, and most of my past videos were pre-recorded from last summer and winter break. But alas, I've run out of pre-recorded content, so I've been forced to find a way to make new content without my typical gear. I used to do art on Procreate, but I no longer have access to the tablet I'd been using, so I've started working with IBIS Paint. Secondly, I've been meaning to do something different from Monster High. Yes, it's awesome, but I like switching things up once in a while. So I've been exploring some of my other passions, like creating characters based on different ideas. So, this is the first of 16 videos that I intend to make, and the concept or theme is turning Myers-Briggs personality types into superheroes. Any MBTI nerd is probably aware of the personality database. If you aren't, well, the personality database is a website that has lists of almost every character, fictional or real, any concept or idea in existence. It allows for type nerds like me to post comments on our analyses of different characters, songs, and other like things. There's even a category for superpowers, which I was looking at and found very entertaining that people would assign MBTI types to superpowers. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun to make superhero characters based on the MBTI types with their corresponding powers? And then I said, yes, it would. So I compiled all of the superpowers for each type and organized them and threw them onto a name generator. So we are going to spin that wheel for 2 superpowers that I will give to my heroes. One power would be boring, and all of them would be too complicated to incorporate into a design, so we're going to go with 2 of the superpowers. The first MBTI hero will be an INFJ. I chose this one because it seemed like a good one to start with, given that it's a fairly popular and well-known type. Also, there are a lot of people who are familiar with this type because it is probably the type that, well, people are most commonly mistyped as. Okay, we are here with the wheel of every superpower that, according to the personality database, is considered INFJ. So let's give it a spin. And the first power is dream spying. Oh, yes! I can totally make this work. It definitely suits the INFJ vibe. Very dark and emotional, a little magical. Yeah, I can totally use this. And the second power will be, precognition. Yep. This is very, very INFJ. It's basically the superpowered version of NI. Precognition is basically the ability to see the future right before it happens, so I guess it's kind of like Spidey sense, although a little different. Alright, now that we have our powers, let's get to it. So, just to give you a warning, while recording, I actually lost a lot of footage. So, that's going to be really sad because it was most of the pre-sketch that got corrupted. But there's still a lot of stuff, and my process does change a little bit, and that might be interesting to see, so I hope you're entertained. Another thing that is important to note is that I'm not used to these longer videos, given that my videos are typically just under or over 5 minutes. So I might not be talking the whole time, and also my posting schedule has changed from bi-weekly every Tuesday evening to whenever I finish the videos. So yeah. So I was sketching around with the powers, and I really liked the idea of having a mysterious, dark, and silent character. And I wanted the features and gender to match the little INFJ character from the 16 Personalities website. So I absolutely had to give magical and wizardy vibes. I really liked the idea of using a hood instead of a traditional mask, and a much looser, more flowy fabric type of outfit. I imagine that the INFJ would be a less active fighter and serve as an observer in battles, offering advice and messing with his enemies' heads to defeat them. With his dream spying skills, he can probably find out all their secrets and interpret their goals and desires, and through that, learn their weaknesses, which enables him to inform his teammates. His precognition would also be very handy for him as he aids his group, as he can warn them of upcoming dangers. This is how he can use his powers within a group, which is what he excels in. However, he is still able to be a solo act, but in a more subtle way than others. I imagine he would be a bit like Princess Luna from MLP, in that he can fight exceptionally well in the dream domain and potentially manipulate his foes into surrender or a change of heart, kind of similar to the Phantom Thieves in Persona 5. So, while I have your attention, or not, depending on whether you have your audio on while you watch this, I might as well rant about MBTI. If you don't want to hear this because it is a rant, just turn off your audio and, well, I don't mind if you mute me. So, a lot of people love MBTI and a lot of people hate it, but I find that most people just don't understand it. So, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator was originally based off of Carl Jung's work in his Psychological Types book. Catherine Cook Briggs really loved Jung's work, and she always was, trying to complete it and finish it, but she never got around to actually making something out of her research. Her daughter, however, Isabel Briggs Myers, was very much inspired by her mother's work and was able to turn the 8 cognitive functions that Jung theorized and turn it into a more rounded psychological model for determining one's personality types, based on the fact that you are not just one thing over another, that you're multiple different things. And so a test was created to help people, and so it's really difficult because there's I want to say there's 2 different kinds of MBTI. The first would be the more shallow one, in that the letters are the main focus. So, like INFJ or ESTP or whatever, those letters stand for introverted versus extroverted. If you're an I, it's introvert. If you're an E, it's extrovert. Intuiting and sensing for N versus S. T or F is thinking versus feeling, and J and P are judging and perceiving. And a lot of people go off of this in that they'll think, am I more introverted or more extroverted? Am I a thinker or a feeler? Am I more spontaneous? Am I a perceiver? Or am I more rigid and firm with my ideas, in that I'm more of a judger? So this is fine and it's good. I do recommend people start out with this because it's a good starting point, and it helps you just kind of get into the mindset. However, it can be difficult given the fact that lots of people have different ideas of what an introvert is or what an extrovert is. A lot of people think introverts are really just shy people and don't know how to socialize, and extroverts just love to party all the time and they never get tired of people. These are common misconceptions and can often lead to people having the wrong result. This is why I prefer the other type of MBTI, which is rooted in the cognitive functions, which were theorized by Carl Jung. And now I'm going to talk about the INFJ personality type specifically. So INFJ stands for introverted, intuiting, feeling, and judging, but it is also well known by its cognitive functions, NIFETISE, which is introverted intuition, extroverted feeling, introverted thinking, and extroverted sensing. So, what makes an INFJ an INFJ? Well, I guess you could say that because of their NI dominance, that's their first function, the primary function, the one that they use like 95% of the time, that their brain automatically goes to. It's their automatic preference is that function. And introverted intuition is a little bit difficult to explain. I personally like to use the analogy that it is fate hear me out. I know that sounds really weird, but I have kind of little nicknames for each of the cognitive functions. I relate them to basic stuff that people like, basic ideas that people can understand and kind of relate them to. So introverted sensing, I gave the nickname past. Extroverted sensing, I gave the nickname present. For NE, extroverted intuition, I gave the nickname of future because there's so many different possibilities. And for introverted intuition and I gave the nickname fate because they're so focused on the abstract in the future, but it's different from because their focus is just so very much on a specific possible outcome. It's kind of like tunnel vision in that they get an idea in their head and usually it's right, and they can't really explain it. It doesn't really come from anywhere, but once they've kind of categorized into their personal database in their brains, it's fact, and they kind of make assumptions that things are going to happen. They're the kind of people that will assume a lot, and most of the time they'll be correct, but there's you can't be 100% accurate. So yeah, it's interesting because it's kind of like a superpower on its own, and that you can you kind of get these intuitions, these feelings where it's like, something's not right here, or I've got a good feeling about this. Those are kind of terms that are associated with an I. So that's just the preference that INFJs have, is to automatically go, how does this fit into the grand scheme of things according to my personal cognition? Their secondary function or auxiliary function is extroverted feeling, aka FE. Now, FE is what makes them, just absolutely sweethearts. They're just darlings most of the time. They are very in tune with other people's emotions and feelings, and that's typically what causes emotional reactions out of them. They can be emotional on their own. Don't get me wrong. That's absolutely not true, because every human has emotions, but they're more likely to be associated with feeling with other people or for the sake of other people. They have a bit of a martyr complex in that they believe that they should sacrifice themselves and they have to give everything to everyone else. They are definitely people pleasers most of the time, which is kind of interesting when you think about it compared to their NI function, because their NI can have an idea that's a little bit contrary to their desire to appease people and to not rock the boat, which I find personally very fascinating, and that's why it's so weird, but it somehow works, which I think is really cool. So INFJs, they typically take on the role of the therapist or counselor of a group, in that they're very perceptive into other people, and they typically like psychology a lot just because they naturally seem to understand people and want to understand why things are the way they are, why people behave the way they do. So yeah, you'll often find a lot of INFJs in that kind of career. Don't get me wrong, that does not mean that if you are an INFJ that you have to be one of those careers. And if you're not an INFJ, that does not mean that you can't be one of those careers. It just means that that's more of a natural inclination. INFJs they struggle sometimes to be forward with their feelings and actually tell people what's going on. They have a bit of a superiority complex in that they believe they know what's best for other people, but they still try really hard to do their best and to take care of others, but also consider the grand scheme of things and what would be best for the greater good. They're very goal-oriented, but they're not always the best at the in-between steps. In fact, despite the fact that they're judging types, they can be very, very, very disorganized and messy. Not to say that all INFJ are messy or disorganized, just that's not a stereotype that you should buy into given the fact that they happen to be Js. INFJs are typically very wise. They're very they're very thoughtful and compassionate, but they're also very creative, and they love, like, they're visionaries. They love coming up with ideas and advocating for different causes that they believe firmly in. They want to change the world by impacting the people in the world, which I think is really cool and definitely is something that a superhero would have as a complex, in that they believe that they can save the world through making differences by helping each individual person or by leading the masses. They want to help everyone just because, I don't know, just because they should or they believe they should. I find that it's really fascinating the way INFJ works with other personality types, given that they have all these beliefs about people and they're able to see through a lot of people's falsehoods. Like, their perception into people is kind of like a lie detector, in that they can just kind of tell, like, this person's not being honest, or they have these feelings that they can't explain where it comes from, but they just kind of like, they just know, which I think is really cool. So yeah, INFJs have their really, really good sides and also their not so good stuff. But I mean, hey, that's just their preference. And their preference is something that can be worked on. Yes, automatically they're going to want to do something or lean towards a certain behavior, but that doesn't mean that they always have to do that or that they should listen to their own inclinations. In order to grow in virtue, people should be comfortable with stepping outside of themselves and striving to become better. And even though they might have weaknesses or inclinations, they shouldn't use it as an excuse, but tell themselves, yeah, I might not be good at this, but I'm going to get better. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the INFJ. Sorry for making you listen to my rant. And here is the final design. And I also have a civilian form over here. I didn't really know what I should do with him. I thought I'd make him kind of slightly casual because he's just kind of laid back, he's more chill, but he's also very keen. He's got very bright eyes, he's very observant. He looks like he is in on a secret joke and he's watching it unfold. Yeah, he's just got a lot of style. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Myers-Briggs is something that I really like and I find very fascinating. It's a good tool to help understand people. And of course, I love creating characters based on different concepts or mixing and matching different ideas. So yeah, I had so much fun doing this. If you liked this concept and maybe you want to hear more of my ranting, although I can't understand why, just keep an eye out because there will be more of these videos hopefully coming soon. As I said in the beginning, there is a different schedule. It won't be bi-weekly, but it shouldn't take longer than a month for each. Hopefully less. I'm gonna try to get it down, but no promises. Yeah. Oh, I also have Instagram now, and I've posted that in my Gmail account as well as my Discord in the description, so if you want to contact me, that's how. On my Instagram, I usually post a lot of just random sketches, some content from my past videos. Yeah, so you can check that out if you like. It's not fancy or impressive or anything, but it's cool. And if you liked this video, just give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe and leave a comment if you have any questions. Also, I would really appreciate it if someone were to comment which Myers-Briggs type that they would like to see next. I have one other that I want to do next, but I'm curious to see if there's any particular favorites or if anyone wants to see a particular one much sooner. So just shoot me a comment on which Myers-Briggs type you think I should do after the next one, and we'll see where that takes us. Again, thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye!